Hey folks, I'm Mike, founder of Halftone Gaming and developer of Blood Dome 99. If you're not familiar with Steam Next Fest, this is a festival of demos hosted on Steam 3 times per year. It's one of my favorite events of the industry, as a developer and as a gamer. A free demo is required to enter the fest, so it's all about real playable slices of games. It has a big focus on upcoming independent games, and it's just one of the best events for players to find new games and developers to find new players. I try to play as many demos as I can every Next Fest. This fest I played 33 demos, and these are my 10 favorites. Old School Rally is a pretty simple, retro-feeling rally racing game. The game handles somewhere between arcadey and sim. It took me a few minutes to get the feel for the handling, but once I got into it, I found the handling and controls incredibly satisfying. It just feels great to move your car through the course. There's also a lot of great feedback, including a great implementation of controller rumble. We get little bursts of rumble as you hit bumps or go over rougher terrain. There isn't much content in the demo, so I'm hoping to see a lot more tracks, cars, and game modes in the full version, and I'm sure we will. Sworn is basically Hades with co-op. I think it will be a little bit divisive, given that it's sometimes kind of blatant in the way it borrows from or is inspired by Hades. But that being said, I love Hades and I love co-op games. The game looks and feels good, and it's a lot of fun to play with friends. Blood Typers is another co-op game I really enjoyed. Blood Typers is an old-school survival horror game combined with a typing game. It's a little complex to get into because there's a lot of task switching and multitasking, but I actually enjoyed that clunkiness. It fits well with the obscure and clunky feel of the early Resident Evil vibe. Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers is a blackjack roguelike. The obvious comparison it's going to get is Balatro, and for good reason. From what I understand, it was in development before Balatro, for whatever that's worth. It does have a pretty different feel from Balatro. It actually feels like a more traditional deck builder, where you're building sort of a battle deck to play blackjack against NPCs who each have their own decks with different builds and weird synergies. Goblin Cleanup is a co-op game where you and your friends play as goblin maids who are going to a dungeon that has recently been looted and ventured through. Your job is basically to clean up the dungeon and get it ready for the next adventurer. This demo is pretty low pressure. As far as I can tell, there's no real fail state. If you die, you instantly respawn, but your death causes a big mess, which can cause a fun spiral where you die in dangerous areas, so people have to clean it up, causing more deaths and more mess. Overall, this was just a fun, goofy, low-stakes co-op game. Caravan SandWitch is a very relaxed adventure game. Again, keeping in the theme of no real fail state. As far as I can tell from the demo, there's no combat and only pretty light puzzle elements. You'll largely just be exploring the environment, finding collectibles, and interacting with characters. The movement has sort of a climbing and platforming thing going on, and feels great to just move through the world. It's also extremely charming. The great visual style, good environmental design, and it's really just a pleasure to explore the world. Enotria, the last song, has gotten a lot of attention for good reason. It's a Souls-like created by an Italian studio, and it seems like they really tried to imbue this Italian folklore feel into it. So you have these beautiful sun-drenched coastal towns you're going through in the demo. It's a nice change of pace from the gothic elements you get in most Souls games. I think they really nailed the feeling. The levels are beautiful and really well designed. Gameplay feels great. There's a little, they call it an RPG system that lets you create some light builds and synergies, which is cool. I will say that I encountered some issues with performance and a little bit of buggy enemy behavior, so hopefully they can work out some of those issues by the full release. If they do, I think this could be one of the better Souls-likes. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost getting over roguelikes, and then a game like Blueprints does something really interesting and pulls me back in. It's a little hard to explain, but basically in Blueprints, you're exploring a mansion while also creating the mansion as you explore it. There's no combat in this game, solely exploring this mansion, laying down these tiles or rooms as you go. Rooms have different entrances and exits, so you have to be conscious of how you're placing them to avoid blocking your own path. Rooms also have different effects, and there are a few resources that you need to manage, as is typical in this kind of roguelike. If you're into roguelikes that start off a bit obscure and gradually unfold, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Conscript is a survival horror game where the horror is World War I. Right off the bat, I think that's a pretty interesting twist. Usually when we see war in video games, it's presented as this pretty exciting and adventurous thing. This really doesn't present war in that way. I think especially when you look at the trench warfare of World War I, it's pretty horrendous to imagine living in those conditions. It's definitely some inspiration from early Resident Evil games, but it definitely doesn't feel like a Resident Evil clone. You explore atmospheric environments, completing simple puzzles, dealing with limited resources, and there's some very brutal and sometimes stressful combat. The Altars is a game by 11-Bit Studios. we're a larger indie studio. They're well known for making Frostpunk and This War of Mine, and I've gotten to publishing a bit with some cool games like Indica and The Invincible. In general, I really like this studio a lot. They make great use of their size, and you can really see some high production values out of them. But they also have a big focus on creating games and telling stories based around philosophical and ethical themes, and that's definitely apparent in Realtors as well. It's a little hard to explain the gameplay itself because you're essentially collecting resources to upgrade your base, but it would be disingenuous to call this a survival crafting game. I'm not a huge survival crafting guy personally, so for me that's a good thing. Where the game really shines though is the narrative. You're alone on an alien planet, trying to collect resources and survive to bring them back to Earth. In order to do this, you need to clone yourself, and you can also change elements in each clone's history to give them a different branching life path and different skills and specialties. Each clone is their own character, so it seems like as you go on, you're going to end up with a crew of different versions of yourself that all have different ways of looking at the world and feelings towards each other. As I said, it's a bit hard to describe, but I'll just say I'm fully bought in. When the demo was over, I was immediately ready to go buy the full game. So thanks so much for taking the time to listen to my thoughts. These are anywhere from small solo developers to larger independent studios, and they can all use your support. Please go follow these developers on Steam, wishlist and follow the games, check out the demos, whatever you can do. These things really matter because they really help with the Steam visibility and algorithm. I also want to take a moment to say that I am a developer as well. And while you're checking out these other demos, I would love it if you checked out the demo for our game, Blood Dome 99, as well. I'll put a link in the description. Like I said, I played over 30 demos this Next Fest, but there were thousands. So anything that I missed, let me know in the comments, and I'll definitely check it out. And let me know if you're interested in seeing more content about indie games.